Hi, everybody. It's the show with Ron. I'm Ron, and this is where we try to add context and commentary to the general headlines. These are the headlines that are being presented to us every day by who knows who, trying to get us to get all excited about this issue or that. So we don't get all stressed out about it. Let's take a look at it and see if we can understand what's really going on. Now, first here we have the revenge or the strike back of Israel back on Iran. And if you look at the previous video that I did, that talks about a lot how Israel had to make this response, all the reasons why, because of statecraft and international order, they had to strike back at Iran on this. It does seem as though Israel certainly pulled their punch on this so far. Netanyahu's government splinters as security minister calls attack on Iran lame. Obviously, Israel does do a lot of things at the behest of the United States. They've been our proxy there for many, many decades, bombing people we need to bomb, either openly or clandestinely. And so the U.S. pulls the strings, and certainly President Biden is under a lot of pressure to hold back and to moderate how Israel is acting, because there's this unusual, unprecedented anti-Israeli feeling that is running through the West for various reasons. It's a very, we've talked about this in some of the past videos. It's a little depressing, but it's a real change, because the U.S. administration is viewing it as such and has had to speak out publicly to tell Israel to tone down after initially fully supporting them. Here we have Iran and Israel's open warfare after decades of shadow war. This is, one of the precedents that was set or broken during Iran's attack on Israel, where Iran felt confident enough on the world stage to directly attack. I mean, this is war. This is open war finally between Iran and Israel. And Israel has become surrounded by proxies of Iran on all sides. Hezbollah to the north, until recently has Hamas in Gaza. We have down the Red Sea the Houthis who are joining in, trying to disrupt shipping there. So there has been a breakdown of the way things were. Here we have Trump on the stand. I'll mention, some of my recent videos. I didn't mention some of the buzzwords that you can't say if you say Biden, if you say Trump in any video, it can't be promoted on YouTube, because it is instantly an election advertisement, which is strange, because I've tried to be a reasonable, pragmatic, general kind of talking about both sides equally. I'm not trying to beat the drum for one side or another. So I was surprised about that. And then I did a video where I didn't mention any politics at all, but I just mentioned the issue of abortion connected to the situation in Arizona, which has a very complete ban, and not advocating for either side, but just saying why. Usually in politics, politicians opt for not a very strict anti-abortion stance, and people opt for that. But both of those two things were tagged then as this video is not something YouTube wants to deal with, because you cannot mention abortion and you can't mention any politician's name, because that's, I don't know. It's a funny difference, because we used to have media, and the media was supposedly done by professionals. So just any old Yahoo couldn't get in there and say his piece. But now we have all these platforms, and people kind of see this platform as new media, and they expect to have the same respect for their free speech that the government or big business has for the speech and media and newspapers. But that's really not the case. So I'm not sure where I fall on that, but it is kind of frustrating to know you just make videos and they're not going to be promoted, and they'll likely be shadow banned just because you mention, probably because you mention Trump in them, no matter what you say about him, because these big companies are probably compromised. But anyway, here we are. It's still out there. It's still possible to see these videos. So Kennedy plays spoiler at the state level. New polling says maybe. This is the emerging idea that a third-party candidate, Robert Kennedy Jr., could impact one candidate or another. A few months ago, it was unclear which candidate he might impact. Probably the betting people would say it's Trump, because Kennedy seems to be a kind of conspiracy theorist, a real, he doesn't abide by the doctrinaire views, the politically correct views in any way or another. But in recent weeks, the polling has come out that it probably could impact Biden, and that's for many reasons. But one of which are there are just a few states like these, Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, that are competitive. That means that all the other states, they're so overwhelmingly a vote for one or the other. All those electoral votes are going to go to the Republicans or Democrats already. So these are states that can be really fought over, and it's a toss-up as to which candidate gets the most votes. Because whoever gets the most votes in that states, they get all the electors of that state that go to their total. And apparently in these states, it could hurt Biden. And we have, a few days ago, I missed this article, all of the Kennedys coming out together to support and show that they're supporting Biden, and that the Kennedy name, which has a lot of cachet in American politics, the Kennedy name is going to support the establishment Democrat candidate, which is Biden. And okay, what else do we have here? Millions of New Yorkers may be planning to leave. I always just point this out because I know a lot of foreigners, non-Americans. We call you foreigners. Are a little surprised at the way the U.S. is set up, with each of its states, really being like its own country, and that can have very, very diverse laws that stretch everything from the way, everyday criminal activities are policed, how the traffic laws are. So some different ways of turning right on red, going straight through certain intersections. State by state, they set their own laws, and that goes all the way up to the way they tax it, how much taxes there are. And there are always the more liberal states that have a lot of higher taxes and a lot of services, and the states that have lower taxes and and fewer services. And here's a situation where we have New Yorkers might move away. This is a phenomenon in the United States where people always say, oh, I'm going to leave the state or leave the country if something happens. And they say this in polls, but then when when that eventuality comes to pass, they don't really do it. But could be a lot that leave. over new taxes in the state of New York. Pentagon speeding up work on the first nuclear warhead in 40 years. What a change, you know. Anybody old enough to remember living before the Cold War, being concerned about getting nuked all the time, the end of civilization, all of our thousands of nukes and the Soviets' thousands of nukes, and then the end of the Soviet Union and all that seemed to collapse. And certainly the story of the end of the 20th century, the biggest story, from the end of the 20th century to the beginning of the 21st century, is not going to be the rise of the internet. It's not going to be the rise of extreme radical Islamic terror groups interfering with the world order. It probably is not even going to be that the world order has been disrupted as it has been in the last few years. But it's going to be that the whole world dropped the ball on stamping out the danger of nukes. And we're seeing that here. But this is the big story. I'm positive if you step out of our history, you jump up 50 years forward and say, what's the one big issue of this time? It's this. During the 90s, early 2000s, there was a chance to dig into getting rid of the nukes and the danger they pose to humankind, and it wasn't done. And I think that's going to be the story. And you know, eventually, if some tactical nukes are used in battle, that will certainly be the story that stands out from our age right now. I've been watching all this stuff about the Tesla trucks. Everybody's been dunking on these trucks on YouTube. I don't know one way or another. I can't imagine why someone would want something that this is. To me, this seems horribly poorly styled, but I like the idea of Musk always trying to do something. Isn't this much better than just the general old crappy Toyota that comes out every year? That even I have, and it's just like I've got a clone car. It's the most generic, generalized stuff. I've got to admire somebody who's trying to do something radical. And I also have to remember how when the Teslas first started coming out, there were all these same stories that Musk is going to go bankrupt and the cars are terrible and it doesn't work. I just love it that somebody's trying to do something, that's willing to put billions on the line to do something special, to do something different. Yeah, I don't mind that he wants to get a $56 billion money. He puts it into all these projects that in the private sector that are, you know, instead of waiting for the government to go to space, he's trying to go to space. And I don't know. Maybe it's the nerd in me that's fixating on that. But I like somebody who's taking a chance. Kind of odd. The jobless claims haven't fluctuated all in zeros for a series of weeks. And then some people just say, yeah, it's a coincidence because state by state they have changed, but then it somehow all adds up to be the exact same amount. A weird statistical error. I don't know what to say about that. I hesitate to even focus on this because, you know, we're in the age of conspiracies where people want to say everything is stage managed from behind the scenes, and I'm not sure that that's entirely correct. Oh, did I miss that? Okay, I missed that. Here's a conspiracy theorist right here from Florida sets himself on fire outside of Trump hush money trial. They just said he wrote a lot of really nutty stuff. This is the example of a guy maybe who didn't watch my channel. How terrible that I say something like this, or denigrate a crazy person who did something stupid. But the concept is that we need to look and try to understand what's happening in the news and not get so wound up that we think we might have to kill ourselves to. That's another reason this video can't be monetized. I've just talked about this news story. I talked about one killing oneself. You don't want to get yourself wrapped up in these stories to the point that you think you have to take action. Most of the time, just let other people take action. You make your money and do your thing. And I know some people say, well, the big issue here was he was crazy. I don't know if he was clearly crazy. I know a lot of people who write crazy stuff and believe the most crazy stuff you can imagine. And they go to work and they're not crazy, but then sometimes they get themselves so riled up by the news, they've got to take action. So most of the time, if you find yourself taking up arms against yourself or others, you've gone down the wrong path. You're making a mistake, no matter how logical that path seems to you. I don't know. This is a very example of things that of a story that'll drive you crazy. The little health news, a strain of bird flu found in milk. Right? Health is one of those things that the media just throws out these little tidbits there. Oh, is this? And we've got a danger. Whoops. Yeah, I don't want to I don't want to disable this because I don't want to show you lots of infected toenails and stuff. NASA warns China may try to take over the moon. Okay, there's something to worry about. Here's another good worrying health article. Longest COVID infection recorded 613 days. And 50 new mutations. Okay. Can't worry about stuff like that. It's beyond our control. So this is it. This is what I wanted to get to. Another thing, this is it's another thing, people getting wrapped up by the news, their lives, the world, the broken promises of the world, their expectations, their victim mindset. So, and I can feel it. I remember when this happened, and there's guys who were taking revenge, and they had some sense of style or something. And the little group of 4 people, I think only 2 guys did it, but I always just remember I believe it was a line from Chris Rock where he was saying, those guys said they had no friends, but in their little group initially there were 4 or 5 of them. And Chris Rock says, I don't got 5 friends now. Yeah. And, there's, if you look into it, and there's a lot of good YouTube videos about it, so many copycat people glommed off of these Columbine nuts. Another reason, you got to separate yourself from the news. Got to see things the way they are. You can't march in somebody else's parade. And I think that's about it for today. Here's my book. Disillusioned by the promises of the modern world, young people make their way to Bangkok and then on to the furthest places they can find. there are still unknown places. And I just heard my book is now available at Kinokuniya branches at M Quarter, Central World, and Siam Paragon. I really wanted them to carry it, and it's in literature, which is cool. So this is another dream come true for me. Read it and let me know what you think, please. Thanks. So that's the news for today. Please buy my book. Let me know if you like it or not, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.